It was 2007. A 21-year-old rapper from Baton Rouge, Louisiana was sitting at number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100. His song was everywhere. Radio, clubs, cars rolling through every city in the South. His name was Webster Grady Jr., but the world knew him as Webbie. And then, almost as fast as he arrived, he was gone. And this is why. In order to understand Webbie, you need to understand Baton Rouge, because Baton Rouge is not New Orleans. It doesn't get the tourism, the cultural write-ups, the cinematic treatment. But what it does have is one of the most concentrated pockets of street violence in the entire state of Louisiana. A city where the poverty rate sits well above the national average and where certain zip codes have body counts that rival cities 3 times its size. Webbie grew up in Joella Avenue area on the north side of Baton Rouge. This is the part of the city that doesn't make the travel guides. His childhood was exactly what you'd expect from that environment. Absent father, street life moving in fast, violence as background noise before he was old enough to fully understand. He started rapping young, raw, unfiltered, southern to the bone. No metaphors, no wordplay for the sake of it, just whatever was in his head coming straight out, which turned out to be exactly what the streets wanted to hear. He linked with Lil Boosie, another North Baton Rouge product who was rapidly becoming one of the most respected street rappers in the South. The two of them together had a chemistry that was undeniable. Boosie was the calculated one, Webbie was the wild card. Boosie had bars, Webbie had chaos, and you put those two things together on a track, something happened. They signed to Trill Entertainment, and Baton Rouge had 2 of the most authentic street voices in the country on the same label at the same time. In 2005, Webbie dropped his debut album, Savage Life. It moved, not crossover numbers, but real numbers, the kind that are built entirely on word of mouth and mixtape rotation because the music is just that undeniable in its lane. The South was rocking with him hard. Then came 2007. Independent featuring Webbie became one of the songs of the year. Webbie's verse, that hook, that energy, cut through everything. It charted nationally. It put him on a platform he had never been on before. For a kid from Joella Avenue in Baton Rouge, that was everything opening at once. But for Webbie, he was not built for that moment. And that is not an insult. Some people are built for the streets and built for music, but are not built for what comes after the music takes off. The industry, the pressure, the cameras are always on you. The expectations to be someone consistent and managed and brand conscious was just too much. Webbie was none of those things, and he never pretended to be. The incidents started stacking up almost immediately after the success came. So in 2008, Webbie and Boosie were both arrested on drug and weapon charges in Georgia. Police pulled over their tour bus and found, that green and firearms. Boosie, he caught the more serious charges, but Webbie caught some charges too, and the tour was effectively done at that point. Boosie's legal situation would escalate into something that took him off the streets for years, eventually facing a murder charge that he would beat, but not before doing significant time on drug charges. With Boosie gone, Webbie was essentially operating without his anchor. And without his anchor, Webbie became fully himself, which was a problem. The video started circulating. Webbie on Instagram Live, erratic, unfiltered, saying things that had no business being said publicly. Webbie in interviews going off script in ways that made publicists visibly uncomfortable. Webbie at airports, and this is where it starts getting documented. He would have confrontations with staff, with passengers, with anyone in his proximity who he felt had crossed him in some kind of way. In 2019, Webbie was filmed at an airport, completely losing it on a gate agent. The video went viral, people laughed, people were shocked. People who hadn't thought about Webbie in years suddenly remembered he existed, but for all the wrong reasons. Then it happened again. Different airport, same energy, another video, more viral spread. More people watching, not because of the music, but because of the spectacle. Now, here's where it gets complicated, because when you watch those videos back and people have watched them millions of times, there are 2 ways to read what you're seeing. So the first way is you can view it as a man who never got the mental support he needed. A man who came from a generally traumatic environment, who got access to money and fame before he had any framework for handling it either, and who has been publicly unraveling for years while people film and laugh at him. The other way that you can view this is a man who has always been exactly who he said he is: unfiltered, unmanaged, unbothered by what anybody thinks. And the problem is that the world changed around him while he stayed the same. Both of those views are probably true at the same time. The music never fully stopped. Webbie kept dropping. Savage Life 2, Savage Life 3, Savage Life 4. The sequels just kept coming. The core fan base stayed loyal. Baton Rouge never stopped claiming him. People who grew up on that era of Southern rap never let go of what he meant to them during that window. But the mainstream has moved on. The algorithms don't reward chaos in the same way that the radio once did. The industry had restructured around artists who could be packaged toward brand-partnered content calendar. Webbie was none of that, and he refused to become any of it. He also had ongoing legal issues that kept pulling him back. Child custody battles that played out publicly. Financial disputes, the kind of sustained turbulence that makes it nearly impossible to build momentum even when the music is good. And sometimes the music was genuinely good. That's the part that gets lost in the airport videos and the viral moments. Webbie could actually rap. He was never a technical marvel, but he had something real, something raw, a specific energy and authenticity that you cannot manufacture and you just can't teach. When he was locked in on a track, you could really feel it. But the problem was everything that existed around the music. Boosie eventually came home. The two reconnected. They did shows together, did music together. The chemistry was still there. It doesn't go away when it's real, but the moment they had in 2007 was not coming back. That window had closed. Webbie knows this. In interviews, the ones where he's calm and actually talking straight, he acknowledges that. He talks about what he could have done differently. He talks about the people around him, the decisions he made, the times that he let his temper run the situation instead of his head. But he also doesn't apologize for who he is, and that's very Webbie. That's always been Webbie. Here's what makes his story different from a standard rise and fall narrative. Webbie never fully fell. He's still there, still rapping, still showing up, still doing shows in the South to rooms full of people who never stopped rocking with him. What happened to Webbie isn't a collapse. It's something more complicated than that. It's what happens when a person who was never designed to fit the industry's expectations gets a brief moment where the industry needed exactly what he was. And then the industry moved on to something more manageable. He was too real for what the business eventually became, and the business was never real enough for who Webbie always was. But that's the brief story of Webster Gradney Jr., better known as Webbie, Savage Life, and this is why it still matters.